Most businesses still focus on the application layer, that is, tools, co pilots, assistants, and automation opportunities. That framing is understandable, yet incomplete. Beneath it, something more fundamental is changing. The digital infrastructure we all rely on is being rebuilt for a world where machines are not just tools but primary actors. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Analytics Insight podcast, where we talk about the ever evolving tech space. And I am your host, Priya Dialani. Every major technology wave claims to be unprecedented. Most are not, but this one genuinely is. Previous industrial revolutions optimized physical labor. The digital revolution organized information and built the infrastructure modern businesses run on. AI is different. It is the first technology designed explicitly and from the ground up to automate human intellectual labor. Let's welcome Dinesh Venugopal, CEO of Tenarai, to talk about AI fatigue and why the next wave of AI innovation will be driven by execution and not experimentation. Hi, Dinesh. A very warm welcome to our podcast today.
Hi, Priya. Delighted to be here, and thanks for having me on the podcast.
Great. It's a pleasure to have you on our today's episode, Dinesh. And yeah, I think we are going to talk a lot about the other side of AI, where most of the leaders and enterprise, CTOs and CEOs are, sometimes they often overlook that aspect, that how is it important to shift from experimentation to a wide scale execution, and what are some challenges that usually come across, what are certain things they can keep in mind while driving their execution strategy. But before
Okay.
that, let's set our foundation and tell our listeners more about Tenarai, its specialization, and alongside that, a little bit more about you, Dinesh. How has your journey been till date, and what's your role at the company today?
All right. Priya, again, thanks for the question. So let me start with Tenarai. We are a Silicon Valley engineering company with about 5,000 dedicated innovators. And we have only one goal to accelerate AI adoption within enterprises and produce business results. And our customers like to work with us because we combine three things. We bring in the context, we bring in deep domain knowledge, and then the engineering expertise to solve complex problems using AI. I've been at the helm of Tenarai as CEO for the past 2.5 years, and I can say it's been quite a journey. In the past 2 years, I've seen the industry completely transform. And I think getting Tenarai ready for the transformation has been a fantastic journey in itself. So we did three things. We transformed ourselves first before we decided that we can help our customers. The first thing we did is we created a platform that can help accelerate AI adoption. Then we focused on our talent and said, hey, the talent needs to change dramatically. And then we focused on something that most people don't think about. What are the partnership ecosystem needed to drive this AI transformation in our customers? And that's been so far been very successful in our opinion. Our customers are loving what they do, and they really like the fact that we are obsessed with outcomes. As for myself, Priya, I've been in the Valley for almost 2+ decades now. I started my career in startups as a developer and then moved up the ladder into head of R&D. And a couple of decades ago, I switched to the IT services side. I was part of some large companies and small companies, and now I'm really excited to be here at Tenarai, driving and being at the forefront of the transformation journey for our customers.
Thank you for that insightful introduction, Dinesh. And we are really fascinated to understand not what just the organization does, but also the vision and purpose that drive it forward. And your role also clearly gives a front row seat to the industry's evolving landscape. And I'm sure our audience now has a much better understanding of the value your organization brings to the market. Okay, so with that foundation set in place, if you talk about 2026, Dinesh, I think even experimenting with AI is too late. AI has moved from pilot projects to core operating infrastructure, with CEOs directly owning the strategy and execution. So the real divide is no longer adoption, I believe it's scale. Companies that operationalize AI into production workflows will pull ahead. Those still testing it in isolation will fall further behind. So let's shape what's next. And I think that's important that if companies are not experimenting with AI in their businesses, I think they're already behind. Why do you believe the next wave of AI innovation will be defined by execution rather than experimentation?
It's a great point. If you really look at, how AI adoption has evolved over the last 12 to 18 months, it started with everyone experimenting with LLMs and this whole chatbot era when, 9, 12 months ago, everybody's talking about ChatGPT and how that's changing the game. And then they quickly realized that the AI LLM models is evolving at lightning speed. Every day, I live in the valley here. Every day, some new drop, new model, new startup is coming up. And they're all kind of driving AI at really, really fast speed. But if you look at enterprises and where they are, you see that enterprises have really not started seeing full value from AI adoption. You'll see more than 50% of the CEOs tell you that, look, while I am driving the strategy, I'm not seeing the execution translate into proper revenue margin and customer experience goals that they have. So customers want outcomes, right? And they also, you said in the beginning, they have something called pitch fatigue. So everybody's pitching to them AI, and they're all stuck in what I call pilot purgatory. And so, what we are doing is to help those customers get out of that AI sandbox and how do we engineer it directly into the core of the enterprise operations. And that, Priya, requires a very different approach. And if you really look at, I'll talk a little bit about, how we look at enterprise AI transformation. You kind of look at it from three layers. The bottom layer is the LLM, right? The foundation layer. And most people have been experimenting at that layer, right? And all of the chatbots and all the pilots are built on top of the LLMs. But the real reason why they're not able to get from that pilot phase to production is because the enterprise AI is not ready. And so they have to get their data in the right place. And that's where most of the work that we're doing right now is happening, is how do you move your data, which is in old school systems, how do you move them into modern AI systems that the AI apps can take advantage of? So that is the second layer, the AI readiness layer. And the third layer is where most of the value is happening. We call it the value creation layer. And that layer is where people are building applications, where people are building new things that actually create value for enterprises in terms of three things, in terms of either revenue increase, cost optimization, or improved customer experience. So I think that shift is dramatically happening now. And to solve that, I'll tell you one important thing. We need three things. One is need the customer's context. Second, you need deep domain expertise. And third, you need technology expertise. You got to bring all these together to solve these problems. And that's the phase that we are in as a company. And as I think most of the enterprises are in that phase right now.
That's a really insightful perspective, Dinesh. And it feels like we have moved past the phase where organizations are experimenting with AI just to understand what's possible. Today, the real differentiator seems to be execution, how effectively businesses can integrate AI into everyday workflows, scale it responsibly, and generate measurable business outcomes. What's also interesting is that successful execution isn't just about deploying right technology. You mentioned about having strong data foundations or even governance frameworks. All of these things really need to be in place, and all these elements should together will define the next wave of AI adoption. Great. Moving ahead, of course, when we talk about, integrating all of these elements together, so that I think becomes a part of your holistic AI playbook. I think, like I've mentioned, it's no longer just about a technology deployment. It's important how you're creating the foundation where modern companies can create value. And that's when this AI playbook comes into picture because it outlines exactly how enterprises can move from scattered experiments to a more scalable and sustainable transformation. So, how do you think this enterprise AI playbook has also evolved over the last few years? And what are organizations prioritizing differently today?
A great question, Priya. I think you can categorize enterprises into three buckets, if you may. One, people who have taken and adopted AI significantly, and AI is in almost everything you do, and that those are usually the high tech companies, the large ones you all talk about. And then there is a second batch, which is kind of in the experiment mode, but also seen some business success. And the third is the area where they're still struggling to adopt AI. And the playbook for each one of them is slightly different. The first batch of people who have adopted AI like that playbook because they believe that speed and velocity of AI adoption is a real moat in the AI world. I want to repeat this because it's a provocative statement to make. People think of moats as what differentiation you have, how do you drive things very aggressively, how do your customers see your value. But I do believe that the speed and velocity of AI adoption is a real moat in the AI world. The high-tech companies and certain smaller companies which have adopted AI is starting to see a dramatic improvement both in the way their customers are seeing it as well as the value they're creating in the marketplace. Customers, they are found experimentation, but they're trying to figure out how to scale it. And most of them have figured out that if you get the AI ready layer, I talked about the three layers, the foundation layer, the AI readiness layer, and then the value creation layer. And they figured out that if the AI ready layer is kind of in place, then your ability to move up to the value creation layer and start creating value very quickly is very good. And that's what they look for nimble, agile companies like us to work with to quickly start developing applications and getting it out of the market, right? And so they're trying to get to where the high tech and the AI advanced companies are. The third set of enterprises are kind of struggling a bit because they see that a lot of the pilots they have done 6, 9 months ago are no longer relevant because AI models themselves have evolved dramatically. So what they are struggling with to see is that should I just build it with the LM, build it all the way from foundation layer, pick a model like Anthropic or Open AI, and then build all of the applications, the entire stack, or should I go to the AI readiness layer, build it all the way up, or should I start from the value creation layer and come all the way down? So they are really thinking through what they can do. But I do think that they have again an advantage because AI is moving so fast and the models are evolving so quickly. They can actually do what India did when cell phones came in. They completely leap from the landline to the cell phone. So there is an auto opportunity for the enterprises that are not fully adopted to make that switch as well. I think all three types of companies have a future with AI if they really apply what need to do there. And I think the playbooks are absolutely different. That's why I think it's a great question that you asked there, Priya.
Definitely, Dinesh. And I think a few years ago, many organizations were focused on proving what AI could do. Today, the emphasis is much more on scaling AI responsibly and integrating it into core business operations while ensuring it delivers tangible outcomes rather than just isolated successes. And I think, enterprises have also become far more strategic in their approach. Instead of asking where we can use AI, leaders are now asking where can AI solve our most critical business challenges while ensuring security, compliance, and cost effectiveness.
I completely agree there. And I think, sorry, Priya, one point to
Yes.
make there is that, I think enterprises are realizing that they need to focus on outcomes and less on the technology they're using to solve problems. So that last point you made is a very, very valid one.
Right, right. And with that being said, I want to understand your thoughts considering the Indian landscape. I think when you talk about AI, it's not just transforming our world, it's giving a complete upgrade to our lives. And I think at the center of this innovative transformation stands India, which is one of the fastest growing centers for AI development and innovation. And the country's journey from a software outsourcing destination towards becoming a global AI leader is highly commendable, I think. So, do you also believe that India is emerging as a global AI engineering and execution powerhouse?
Absolutely. I think there is an immense opportunity for the India-based workforce to make that transformation. But that to become an execution powerhouse will require significant transformation several levels. So let me talk about what does it take to become successful in the AI world. Like I said, there are three important things. You need to have the customer's context, you need to have deep domain expertise, and you need to have current technology expertise, right? And if you really know, think about what are we known for? We are known for our technology expertise for both depth and scale. So that is really what we are known for. But I'm going to come out and say something that is very provocative, that the era of the knowledge worker is over. So we are not going to be measured in the future for what we know, but we're going to be measured for what outcomes we produce. So from knowledge workers, our workforce need to transform to become outcome engineers. That's a significant change that needs to happen. And again, we do have the ingredients for that success. Why do I say that? Because we are working a lot in the customer's context, right? And so we have the customer's context, and most of us are technology experts, and we have worked in our technology expertise in our entire career. So that is not new to us, even LLMs, models. It's actually making coding a lot easier. But it's not enough to know coding. You have to really solve problems. So you have to look at what the customer's context is and then bring that along with technology expertise. And then the deep domain expertise is something we may have, may not have, but the two out of the three is there. And so the transformation needs to start with every employee, every person working in an industry should say, look, it is not enough to be a good coder, good programmer, or a good tester, or whatever that you've been doing. It's not enough to know something and have that expertise. Expertise is a necessary but not a sufficient condition for success in the AI world. For the AI world, you need to bring together the context, the domain expertise and technology to solve problems for a customer. So from being coders, you become problem solvers. People are not going to ask you how much code you wrote. They're going to say, what problems did you solve? That shift is a shift that is very possible if every engineer, every knowledge worker makes that shift. And I think that is a deeply inner personal transformation that everybody needs to make. And that's why at Tenarai, we have something called I Transform, which is in all other transformations. Priya, if you really look at what happened in the cloud era, in the dot-com era, in the internet era, you could make the transformation by learning a technology or learning something or getting certified. So people are, how many of you have cloud certifications in AWS or GCP or Azure? That is how you measure how many certifications you have. But now that is not sufficient for success. So that shift is a tremendous shift. And that's why each person needs to make that transformation. Make sense?
Definitely, Dinesh, I agree with you. And yes, I think for years, India has been recognized for its engineering talent and IT expertise. But today, we are seeing a much bigger shift. They are not just, Indian companies are not just implementing technology, they are architecting AI solutions, building proprietary platforms, and solving complex business challenges at global scale. And I think, again, the entire transformation is being fueled by a combination of deep technical talent, a thriving startup ecosystem, and increasing investments in AI research and investment.
Agreed.
Great. Now, when we talk about the AI workforce for that matter, or the AI talent, I think, of course, when we talk about in the Indian landscape, you of course did mention that there are a lot of things that we need to consider, and not just consider for India to become a global execution powerhouse. There are a lot of things that we still need to tackle. And I think one of the things that I feel is a significant bottleneck is the tech talent. Now, at first glance, the future of tech looks limitless. Just think how fast AI, including generative or agentic AI, is advancing. Nearly 80% of companies are using AI in at least one business function, and more than 90% are planning to increase their AI investments. Underlying the development of each of these, critical emerging technologies, the most critical constraint is talent. One of the research studies says that in AI, 46% of leaders cite skill gaps as a major barrier to adoption. So, what are the biggest gaps you currently see in AI development, and how do you think we can overcome it?
Again, great question. I think that the biggest gap is not going to be technology anymore because our programmers and tech workers need to move from writing code to solving business problems. Okay. So they need to start thinking about, or we need to start thinking about understanding the business problems of our customers. What is it that we are trying to solve? And how is code AI helping solve that business problems quicker, faster, and more in a way that actually creates better business outcomes? So this is a mindset shift. So when you go into the office and if you are a junior developer, when you come in, you're looking earlier, just looking at your backlog and say, how do I make that backlog happen? And I think the backlogs continue to evolve. And so if you're really looking at fixing just the backlogs, then at some point you will become obsolete because AI is going to take that job away. But the job it won't take is not just creating the backlog. What are the kind of problems that we're going to solve? And what is the best way to solve that problem? And so that shift is a mindset shift that our developers, our coders, our programmers need to make. And that shift, I think we have sufficient time to make that shift. But if we don't make the shift, then AI will continue to erode and take and encroach into what we do today and kind of make that job obsolete. So I have a famous saying, AI is not going to take your job away. But if you don't know AI, your job will go away, right? I think that kind of a mindset is extremely important. So if we start building what customers' context is, if we start building what domain expertise is needed, if we start using LLMs not just to generate code, but also understand how to better solve a problem, I think that shift, that big shift will have a significant change, will significantly change the way our industry is seen in the global world. And we will continue to lead the tech transformation, AI transformation for the world.
Again, a very incredible perspective, I must say, Dinesh. And yes, I think one thing that's becoming clear is that the AI talent challenge isn't about just producing more engineers or data scientists. It's about preparing the entire workforce to collaborate with AI and adapt to these rapidly changing technologies, and being able to continuously learn new skills throughout their careers. And again, the mindset shift is very important, and that's when we can then proceed to reskilling and upskilling, and making one of them the biggest priorities for both businesses and government, I feel.
I agree. And there's one other point I want to make,
Sure.
uh, to add to that, what the knowledge workers need to do. An important aspect is the technology ecosystem, right? So earlier, when we were designing and building and testing and deploying code, we're always focused on the environment that was given to us, right? And we always solved it within that sandbox. But now, what we have to look at is solving business problems, producing the outcomes. And nobody really cares about, how that outcome was produced, but as long as you can get non-linear outcomes from the work that you're doing. And to do that, you really need to build a partner ecosystem, right? The partner ecosystem is not just the Anthropics and the OpenAIs and the Databricks of the world, but also the fast emerging startup ecosystem, right? There are very, very bright people in all parts of the world, especially in India, who are building these small, very small, but very potent startups who are building solutions faster than everybody else. So our ability to leverage that and then create the outcomes for the customer is extremely important. So what these startups have is amazing technology, great problem solving capabilities. But what they don't have is access to the customers, access to the customer's context. I told you there are three things necessary: customer context, domain expertise, and technology expertise. So if you're able to bring, as a person who understands the customer really well, you're able to bring the customer's context and you're able to bring the domain context and then use the startups to kind of get the technology aspect, you're going to start seeing non-linear outcomes coming out and faster to much more faster than building everything yourself. So I think that's another aspect that as tech engineers we should start looking at is we have to constantly, this is why I say this is I transform. It's very much an individual. I can't tell you what startups to look at. You have to go and figure this out, right? We have to go and figure out what startups out there. So you have to get connected to the startup ecosystem, playing around with new technology, understanding, attending forums, even though it's got no correlation, no relationship with what you're doing directly at work. Someday you will be able to connect the dot and bring them all together. I think that's an important, that's why this learning is not just about learning how to do certain things, but learning what's going on in the environment around us, understanding the partner ecosystem, and being able to use that ecosystem to deliver tangible business outcomes.
Completely agree with you, Dinesh. And I think moving ahead, it's very important that enterprises focus on not just the technical expertise, but like you mentioned, the domain expertise and ensuring that the right context and the right data knowledge to scale those AI initiatives sustainably and responsibly. Great. Now, just we are almost at the end of our conversation today, and when we talk about AI deployment, I think 2/3 of global 2000 companies have yet to see measurable productivity gains from AI. This is from a cognizant research I just came across, and it puts a number on the gap that 1 in 4 organizations have paused or abandoned AI deployments. The performance gap between high and low performance is now 31% across productivity, revenue, and cost efficiency. So the difference comes down to foundation. Companies that build data and compute infrastructure before scaling AI report nearly 20 to 27% higher productivity gains. So what are these global 2000 companies prioritizing today, or even if you want to give advice to other companies, what they should prioritize today to move from AI pilots to large scale deployment?
Again, great question. I strongly believe that if you want to get off this pilot purgatory, you have to start looking at AI in the three layers that I talked about earlier. You have to look at the foundation layer, you have to look at the AI enablement layer or data layer, and then the value creation layer. And most people try to go directly to the value creation layer and then start building pilots because they want to show some proof of value or proof of concept to their upper management, say we're making some progress in AI. But the real value you can unlock only if you get the AI enablement layer correct. So, which means that you have to get your data in the right place. You have to modernize your data infrastructure. You have to put in place an AI agent orchestration layer. We haven't talked much about agentic workforce and agent orchestration, but that's going to be huge in the new value creation. And then finally, you have to bring together all of these three layers to start building applications or headless even applications to improve the focus on revenue, margin, and customer experience. So I believe that this is an iterative process. I think you have to act with speed because some of the work that we do, you have to iterate, may have some of them maybe throw away as new models come in. But unless you take a very deliberate effort to get your AI enablement layer right, you will see that you're not getting the maximum value out of this. So I see that once you get that value creation layer correct, you will start seeing significant benefits from AI adoption. And that's why I believe smaller, more nimble companies like Tenarai can help the customers really get AI value by us being obsessed with outcomes. So I think that's what you need to become an execution powerhouse. It will require significant internal transformation and working with some partners and having a partner ecosystem that can drive the acceleration of AI adoption in companies.
Definitely, Dinesh. And I think the coming decade is for those who are able to harness AI not just as an aid but as an edge. And the differentiator will not be vision decks, experimentation theater, or the number of pilots an organization can point to. It will definitely be execution. And as far as India's stature in terms of intelligence systems around the globe is concerned, I think the country will only continue to strengthen. With every innovation, every startup, or every successful AI project, India is proving that it's not just a follower of the technology wave, but also a driver. And in cases where innovation, optimization, or scaling is being planned for business, I think India has the right talent, technology, and the vision for the job. Thank you so much, Dinesh, for taking all the time and effort to be on our episode today and giving us more insights around AI execution, giving more insights around India's strength and it how eventually the success comes down to whether AI is embedded in how value is actually created. That is, it should be connected across teams, capabilities, and systems, and something that is able to compound over time. And in the coming years, the gap will widen between organizations that can turn AI into real sustained impact and those that can't. So, thank you for your insights. It was lovely chatting with you.
Thanks, Priya. I really enjoyed the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dinesh. So, this is for our listeners. I hope you enjoyed today's discussion around why AI experimentation is no longer enough for you to survive in an AI driven world. And it's time that you focus your priorities and your attention to wide scale AI execution and deployment. Stay tuned for upcoming episodes, and you can view all our previous episodes on Spotify and other leading platforms. Thank you so much.